Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Curt Schilling Baseball Show, episode 64, postseason edition. Going to get right on it and start we'll start somewhere where someone didn't start. Clayton Kershaw got one out in game one of the game against Arizona. Their offense jumped all over him. Don't care what he says. I have to believe that there's some physical issues going on. The shoulder was a concern late in the year. I didn't see the sharpness, but I mean, not to abdicate him. He took responsibility and all the things that go with that. Said his shoulder was fine. Everybody was shocked. Dave Roberts said it was shocking. Freddie Freeman said, I don't think anybody in baseball was expecting that. Diamondbacks won to an 11-2. And, it's a best of three. So that first one is a huge win. I don't have any explanation other than he's been an average pitcher in October. And that's just the way it happens. Even when he was healthy, he wasn't a guy who pitched really well in October consistently. And, that's a thing. So, but that's a huge, anytime. I mean, any first game is big, but the shorter the series gets, the bigger the first game gets. And three of the four teams that did not play in the wild card, three of the teams that had byes, lost their game ones. And, Bill, I know you guys, from a fan's perspective, I think there's some curiosity there.
Yeah, 5 days of rest and not playing.
Yeah.
Does that have any effect?
It shouldn't. And I don't know, same thing happened last year, right?
Yeah.
I don't think it's a problem. I would prefer not to be off 5 days. I can tell you that. That's a time of year when you're warm, hot, but at the same time, physically, it does the body good to get 5 days off and you're fresh. But you're going from 5 days off to an intensity level that some of you guys have never, ever experienced. So that's kind of curious. But
yeah, and in a 5-game series, when you're the home team, you're losing game one.
Give away home field.
Yeah.
I would like to give all the credit to the pitching, as I often do in the postseason. But if you look at the Phillies-Braves game and the Braves managing just 5 hits and getting shut out 3-0 by the Phillies, a team that hit 307 home runs, by the way. It was a 0-0 game, I think, into the 6th, right? Or 5th or 6th. They were both Strider was who he was supposed to be. But the Phillies pitched him. And that game, I tend to look at October from the pitcher's perspective in that the pitcher can take control of a game or a series, whereas an offense can't. I don't think, because you're relying on 8 or 9 guys to do it as opposed to one. And I think the Phillies pitching, and we talked about this, Nolan and Wheeler are going to make a series a nightmare for anybody. But, this turns obviously game 2 becomes a must win, right? I mean, you're down 2-0. Most of these teams aren't going to lose 3 in a row.
Right, and to be transparent, we're taping this on Monday for you guys to listen Tuesday, so Wheeler will have already gone.
But the teams that can win 3 in a row from a really good team are all alive right now. So if the Braves came back and scored 11 runs a game for 3 in a row, would anybody stunned? Well, Philly fans would be stunned, but I don't think the baseball world would be. I don't think it's going to happen. I think Wheeler's going to pony up, and if you look at his October numbers, he's exactly who you want on the mound. Up 1-0 for sure. And a number, I got to tell you this, the more I say it, the more shocking it gets. Carlos Correa is third all time in playoff history for RBIs. That's pretty stunning. I don't think he's been playing long enough to be considered a great shortstop. I think he's a very, very good player. His first 4 games, he's hitting .533 with a 1321 OPS. So he's a guy, we talked about this, Bill, early. There are guys who play better in October who elevate their game when everybody else can freeze or digress. And he clearly, they needed. Lopez comes back big. The Astros get 6 scoreless from Verlander in game 1. I said Minnesota was a dark horse with Gray and Lopez and some power arms. And Lopez comes back and shuts down the Astros, punching out 7 and 7 scoreless. And they even the series, so now it's a best of 3.
Well, and I know you had to be very proud of Lopez, who after the 6th inning went into the dugout and said, "I'm pitching the 7th."
Yeah. Love that stuff. Because that's the managers know their players. And I'm thinking he was expecting that, which is everything you want in a guy. But that's a best of 3 now. And from a pitching perspective, that's going to be a fun one to watch. Sonny Gray, I think it's through game 3, right?
He does Tuesday. Yep.
Yeah. So I still believe Minnesota's a dark horse just because of their starters and their arms.
I agree with you. And Houston now, Curt, Verlander went, Valdez went. The rest of their staff is kind of suspect. Right.
Well, they might have the Johnny Holstaff outing, which has worked. We saw it work the other day, but that's not what you want. And it's just such a detour from traditional postseason. I mean, because postseason was built around starting pitching so much, right? I mean, you had the Braves with Maddox and Glavine and Schmaltz, and you had the Astros with Clemens and Pettit, and you had the Yankees with Clemens and Pettit and Mussina, and it was always the thing going into the postseason, and it's just so much less of a thing now. But the teams that can do it traditionally, I think, have a huge advantage. The teams that can go into a series and say, "Here's our 3 starters," and all 3 are getting the ball at least 6 of the 7 games, or 5 of the 7 games. I think because I think that there's a confidence in the rotation or in the lineup. You're going out with Wheeler on the mound tonight. The Phillies lineup, you play differently. If you know he's going to be a guy traditionally who's going to give very little, so you play for a run early differently than you might otherwise. And you can't do that with a bullpen game. So be interesting to see. A guy who I talked about at the beginning of the year and a team that I've talked about all year long is on the verge of leaving, and it's disappointing. Grayson Rodriguez walked 4, went 1 2/3, gave 5 runs, 6 hits, punched out 2 through 59 pitches, and he was pulled. And then Baker and Webb came in. It was 9-2 after 3. Texas hit a grand slam in the 3rd. 11-8 game. You score 8 runs in the postseason, you got to win, unless you give up 11. So that was disappointing. But now a team that's had challenges all year long has got another one. They got to win 3 in a row.
Well, remember the two big series they had in September, one with the Rays and one with the Indians. They lost the first 2 and won the next 2. So
yep.
I'm not giving up on them yet.
No, I'm not either. I want to see that story play out. And I would love to see a game 5 in Baltimore.
That would be spectacular.
Those fans are going bonkers crazy. And it just, to have a season. And like I said, I'm not a big fan of the 5-game series here. I don't mind the 3 play-in, but I got a problem with the 5 on the division series. There's no reason it shouldn't go 7-7-7. I understand why it doesn't from a scheduling perspective, but I still think that 162 game schedule after that best of 3, and you've earned a bye there, deserves a best of 7, and that's going to kind of stink. So talk to me, Bill. What do this Billy Eppler thing? So I've always looked at this stuff as pretty general, right? You either stand up for yourself if you did nothing wrong and say absolutely not, or you walk away. And apparently Mets GM Billy Eppler resigned Thursday over improper use of the injured list. He has yet to speak to MLB officials, but is expected to cooperate with the probe. He resigned in order to avoid becoming a potential distraction to the organization.
I don't get it.
Well,
how do you improperly use
yeah,
the
no, I
injury
know. So how you
report?
improperly use this is you put guys on that you have guys agree to an injury and you put them on when they're not hurt. That's how you improperly use it for the most part. I'm not sure that's a resignation level offense.
Right.
Because I'm pretty sure, and it doesn't make it okay, but I'm pretty sure there's a lot of teams around the big leagues that have done and did the very same thing. This is what you do. This is how you manipulate, just like in the NFL and the injury report. There are little games you play, and yes, you know what? At the end of the day, it's cheating, and you get caught, you get fined, and all the things that go with that. But I'm kind of confused and I hesitate to wonder if Buck's not involved.
Right.
I don't know how he couldn't be.
Well, if Cohen made the call to fire Buck and Eppler didn't agree, it would make sense that the GM wasn't on board with changing the manager and said, okay, then I don't belong here either.
Right. Well, yeah, I'm not sure how, and maybe there's something much deeper than that. I don't know. Like I said, I'm not really sure that that's a resignation level offense, unless there's something far, far deeper here, and I'm not sure what that could be. So that's unfortunate. And we're going to close out. And again, we're taping on Monday, so we'll be back on Friday to talk about the series, which probably, some of them are going to be over. But there is a piece of news that really, really stinks, and that is that Sandy Alcantara had Tommy John over the last couple of days. He will miss all of next year. And I'm going to apologize right now because I don't. He's young. He's in his mid-20s, if I'm not mistaken. Right.
He is.
I should have his age, and I don't. And that's my fault. But I got to tell you, I'm of the firm belief that when you draft and sign a young pitcher and bring in the big leagues, the career plan for the pitcher should include 18 months of downtime. I don't know any of them that haven't had Tommy John. I mean, obviously there's rare exceptions, but I almost think that when you draft a young kid out of high school, that you should allocate 18 months of that first 5 years being off for Tommy John. And we're seeing guys have it twice too, but I don't know what that impact would have on the draft or how you handle guys, but everybody's doing it. And it seems to be, and part of it is, again, watching that game last night, the Baltimore game, it's so uncomfortable to watch. There are very few pitchers left in the big leagues. I'm watching the bullpen out of Baltimore, and these guys are throwers, just throwers. They're missing left and right, not coming close with forcing fastballs. I always talk with young pitchers about good miss and bad miss. When I'm going on the outside corner and I miss, a good miss, I miss away. When I'm going on the inside corner, I'm a good miss, I miss in. These guys are going on the inside half, and Rushman's going across the plate to catch the ball. It's a staff full of throwers, and when you see a pitcher, it stands out. It's like watching Verlander and DeGrom. When Verlander has the catcher on the corner for a fastball away, and he misses like this, or he misses like this. Watch the catcher. Anytime you see the catcher's elbow for a catch, pitcher's missing, right? This is where the catcher should be catching in, and it's so hard to watch. It really is, because it's going to be the reason why you're going to see late inning home runs, probably more so than you might in the past, because these relievers are throwing. They're not pitching, they're throwing. He had a great slider. I can't remember the kid's name that came in for Baltimore, but he walked the bases loaded and was pulled. And then Baker came in. I think it was Baker came in and gave a grand slam. But I'm watching him pitch and walk the bases loaded, and
it was the other way around. Baker walked the three guys, and then Webb came in, and Webb throws high 90s and can tip 100, but you groove 100,
everybody in the big leagues can hit a fastball
quick.
Yep. Everybody can hit a fastball, and it's just so hard to watch. Like I said, that's why when you have starters with command of the fastball, it's such a different thing to watch than watching these guys just throwing the ball as hard as they can. And that's what most of these bullpens are made up of. And it's so the fundamentals that it lacks are just mind-boggling to me, that these pitching coaches in the minor leagues aren't teaching these kids how to pitch, and they're coming to the big leagues as throwers and staying as throwers. And that's why you're seeing what you're seeing. So
Well, I don't know if you saw the Phillies bullpen, but that kid, I read about the kid Orion Keckering.
Right.
He started this year in lower A ball and was brought up September 24th, and he threw a perfect seventh in a 3-0 game.
Yeah. Throwing
sliders. He had 8 pitches, Curt, and 7 of them were sliders.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep. Yeah, because that's the kind of thing that he's not going to get around the league. These guys are all going to see it for the first time. And you can get away with that. A time and a half around the league. Probably not multiple times in a series. But, as a first look thing, you can go out there and show somebody that, because they're seeing it for the first time. But night 2 tends to change the score a little bit. If you're talking about a breaking ball.
Right.
Guys that come in with breaking balls will come in and they'll dominate that person with breaking balls because guys have never seen it before. And it is a plus breaking ball. But I don't care how good your breaking ball is. When you throw it 3 times in one at bat to one hitter, most good hitters are going to figure it out. But he's a fresh look kid. No one's seen him. No scouting reports really, other than what they say. You haven't, these guys haven't had eyes on, so it's different, and it's a huge plus. So, yeah, we got a couple games tonight, and then, like I said, we'll be back on Friday, and I'm assuming we'll be back on Friday with possibly at least 2 series done,
maybe 2, maybe all of them. Exactly.
Yeah, so
exactly.
Anywhere you guys get your podcast, Apple, Spotify, OutKick.com. We'd love you to do it that way. You can find us anywhere. Spread the word. And Bill and John, I'll catch you guys on Friday.